Happy 4th of July, everybody. Today, America turns 250 years old. That is remarkable if you think about it. On the left-hand side of your screen, we're looking at celebrations in New York Harbor, in New York City, but they're happening all around the country today. And nations do not often get to celebrate birthdays like this. Democracies certainly don't. 2.5 centuries after a handful of revolutionaries declared independence from the most powerful empire on earth, the American experiment is still here. We're all still here. It should feel like a celebration. But the reality is, for many Americans, it does not. And it might not to you. America has not always lived up to its ideals, but for the first time in generations, the ideals themselves are under assault. America's promise, the radical notion that all men are created equal. All men are created equal has never been fully realized for certain groups. And yet, over 2.5 centuries, this country, however imperfectly, however painfully, has expanded the circle of freedom. The American story has never been about perfection. It has been about progress, which is why this anniversary feels so different. Because at the very moment that we are supposed to be celebrating American democracy, celebrating flyovers like this one that is happening in New York, there are a growing number of Americans who are wondering whether our democracy still even exists. Princeton historian Eddie Glaude Jr. argues that our great national anniversaries are not just celebrations. They are moments when Americans decide what story they are going to tell about themselves, about all of us. And that is especially true today. The Trump administration has ordered the Smithsonian, the keeper of our collective national memory, to tell a happier story. It calls it patriotic education. Patriotic education. But patriotism does not require forgetting. Patriotism requires remembering. Or as Eddie Glaude puts it, the problem of the 21st century is the problem of America's desperate avoidance of self-awareness. Its refusal to know itself fully. Professor Glaude argues that every anniversary asks the same question. Who do we take ourselves to be? And every anniversary reveals the same temptation, to celebrate the promise while editing out any betrayal. 1876, just as America celebrated its centennial, Reconstruction was collapsing. The country was choosing reconciliation between North and South over justice for the people that had only recently emancipated. Frederick Douglass understood what was happening. While everyone else saw a birthday celebration, Douglass saw this, quote, "The fathers of this republic had their trial 99 years ago. The colored citizens of this republic are about to have their trial now." America, Douglass believed, was about to be tested by its promise of equality. Every anniversary has exposed the same struggle. Who belongs? Who gets to claim America? 250 years later, we are asking those questions again, and we should be. The administration pressures museums to tell a cleaner, edited version of our history, a version that narrows who belongs, a version that narrows whose stories deserve telling, a version of history that narrows who gets to call themselves American. But this week, the New York Times used Census Bureau data to tell a different, more accurate story about our national ancestry. This was block by block, state by state. It mapped out nearly 200 identities going back generations. Over 250 years, this country has absorbed more than 100 million people. Blend them all, and the Times says you get a, quote, jumbled, overlapping, story-filled infinity, melting pot, tapestry, mosaic, kaleidoscope, salad bowl. Every cliche is true, the Times writes. And that is the truth of America. Greek sponge divers in Tarpon Springs, Florida. There are Basque sheep herders in Boise, Idaho, Yemeni auto workers hired by Ford in Detroit, and Vietnamese refugees who rebuilt their shrimping lives on the Gulf Coast. And in one stretch of southwest Houston, the top ancestries on the same blocks include Nigerian and Jordanian and Mexican and Vietnamese, African American, Salvadoran, Iraqi, German, English, Irish, and Chinese. That is not a diluted America. That is and always has been America. Which is why for so many Americans, and especially, particularly black and brown Americans, today is complicated. It is hard to sing happy birthday to a country that keeps asking you to prove your belonging at your own birthday party. But here is the thing about the great Frederick Douglass. He never surrendered the 4th of July. In his famous 1852 speech, he called America's celebration of liberty a hollow mockery. Yet in that same speech, he claimed the Declaration of Independence as his own. He believed America's promise belonged to him too, even when America refused to believe it. And he is not alone in that hope. Giselle Vera, a U.S. citizen from a mixed-status family, says her family will be celebrating the 4th of July today with a grilled carne asada. The Milwaukee native tells NPR that recently there is a phrase she has heard many immigrants say to describe their relationship to the United States. It translates to neither from here or there. It's almost like a limbo in which we existed, she said. And I think that now I am very proud to say I am de aquí and de allá, from here and from there. I am proud to be from here and from there. And Pulitzer Prize-winning writer Mitchell S. Jackson reminds us that America's racial inequalities call into question the very anniversary that we are celebrating. Jackson says that true freedom in America only goes back 160 years to when the 14th Amendment granted everybody equal protection under the law. Quote, if you love something, you're also critical of it. You don't just love it blindly, or hope you don't just love it blindly. So if you truly love America, then you got to tell the truth about America. You got to tell the truth about America. The real story of America is not told by presidents. It is told by the people who refuse to let this country settle for less than its promise. So many, the abolitionists, the suffragists, the labor organizers, the civil rights marchers, the immigrants, the journalists, the teachers, the voters, the people I have met in the streets across this country time after time after time, the Renee Goods and Alex Preddies. That is the American story. Every generation inheriting an unfinished project. Every generation deciding whether liberty will expand or liberty will contract. Or as Professor Glaude puts it, your country? Your history? No. It is ours. Our sweat and tears have shaped this land. We know America would not be America without us.